Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 3 with Black Ice 8 and Third Reich Events 4. We're going to continue with things. Did a little bit of reassigning some generals. I removed the... Oh, there we go. Waiting for that. I like to have... we gotta use on map. I prefer to just put them in the production queue, but Luftwaffe generals for the anti-air units and not the army generals. So I went through and switched that up. Just in case you don't know, you can't, if you can push the button more than once, but until it goes red, which means it's on the map, but it's repairing technically, they come in unrepaired or need to be repaired. If you just click it too many times, it waits to build it up. So I want to maximize and get the factories out there as quickly as possible so that they're in production. So I don't want them just sitting in the queue waiting. Alright, and now that we've done that, with these, we need to move these to the bottom here. So these will be coming out and just there, so we'll be doing this again. I'm sending a bunch of these reserve units, there we go, to what will be the west wall once we build the west wall. Yeah, I think we got most. And do this again. No, we lost our agreement with Romania. Well, I still want to see what they're doing for rare materials. Okay, let's see if we can buy just one from them. Yeah. How's Finland doing? Well, we can try to offer them, but Artillery unit command and control has improved. And we're going to let that go because we want to eventually get to there to be able to. Well, actually, it'd probably be better to do the 36-year technology. That'll happen faster. How's Rand doing? No. Okay, Finland, yes, we'll give you, sell you supplies. Japan, sure. Norway, fine. Okay, right now we need 41 supplies and we're building 67. Getting that up, so what we're going to do here is upgrade that and reduce this down a bit. I want to concentrate on more factories at the moment, but I still want to overproduce supplies. Not changing that part of my strategy. Okay. New industrial zone is ready. It will appear on the map in at least a 1 IC province with your nation's cores under your control and without existing strategic resources. Okay. When it says you'll no longer have a strategic resource, don't pay attention to that. I don't know why, because I've coded things that add a strategic resource and it says you'll no longer have one even though I'm adding one, and it'll say it if I'm removing one, why it says it. So don't freak out whether this event or some other event it says that. It just something with the engine, I don't know. Yes, we'll take the second U-boat. Flotilla. I'm not, well, no, I'm gonna not have it take off. Production on the map. Put it over here. And I attach these, at least at the moment, to the Fjord U-boat. U-boat. Okay. Yes, and remember to move them to the top immediately. So, as you've noticed, we're down to it. Well, I don't know if you noticed, but we're down to 5.35 because of practicals. Because all of those ICs got put on the map. That lowers the practicals. These coming on will also lower our practicals as well. And Italy now has its new colonial empire down here. Enterprise is launched. USS Enterprise. So now we've had a few factories come online, so let's again just need to keep making sure that the ones where there is any heavy industry is a place where you're building more, like there. Because when this new one comes online, it's 1.25 ICs because of this, as opposed to just one IC additionally. And it really, they build up. It matters over time. I'm just checking to make sure that they all are. And I'm over checking, I know. Now, I generally like to build a few non-concentrated ones out here so that it's harder for bombing. The Soviets will bomb you, but one, it won't happen as fast, and two, hopefully you'll be able to destroy their bombers quickly enough, and then hopefully drive them further and further. Yes, we'll buy crude oil because we want to get closer relations with you. And drive them further away from your... And the Yorktown is launched from your bases by pushing east once you start the war. Der SA Führer, the SA leader, it's a an essay magazine on being in the SA and that type of stuff. It helps promote National Socialism would be, and a little bit about that's building where it's published, and publisher there. So yes, it improves party loyalty. The Deutsches or Colonial Kriegersbund. Before 1933, there were many veterans organizations in Germany, as you could well imagine, having gone through a traumatic war. There were a lot of them were politically based. You know, not all soldiers were right-wingers because obviously they were drafted. I'm not sure exactly when drafting started for Germany in and around World War I. But so you had all political stripes in there, and once Germany collapsed, it was reduced down to, you know, officially 100,000 men. There were a lot of Freikorps or freebooters or free units or whatever. Another term might be mercenary for them, but they weren't officially controlled by the government. Some of them were sort of classic Freikorps and mercenaries that were German units fighting for Lithuania or Latvia or wherever against the Soviets in a hired to help their nationalism. There were those kinds of elements. And there was the Spartacus uprising, which was a communist uprising in Berlin, that the other Freikorps came in and found some pretty bad massacres, and then they, of course, went in and massacred a bunch of... And massacres, I mean, like, going into schools and killing the teachers and the students because the school was associated with a right-wing thing, not... And they just went in, and the Reds just went in and killed them, not just, street battles, fighting other people in street battles. They were going in massacring ideological opponents, just of any age and any type. So this, of course, the right wing did basically the same. I don't know how going after children they may have been doing, but they were definitely getting to the point of taking no prisoners when it came to fighting because of this. After a while, Germany does regain control of its state, but they don't fully want to get rid of the Freikorps because Germany's, and we've talked about this, I know, is limited to the 100,000 man army. Well, they sort of officially, unofficially, covertly try to shift these Freikorps, and they're the ones that they promote and sort of allow to continue, were sort of the right-wing ones, into veterans organizations. And there were army officers that their job was to secretly have secret stashes of weaponry outside of army barracks, outside of official government control, because all the official places were looked at by the Versailles Commission, and I don't know the details of just how often they were inspected and looked at. But we're talking, I don't know that so much artillery, but rifles, machine guns, mortars, those kinds of level of weapons, infantry support weapons, and that were put in these secret arsenals around that these Freikorps, because, and we think, and we talk, posting a little bit on the message, on the Third Reich events thread about the SA, but there were other right-wing paramilitaries out there that were politically oriented. The SA would obviously became the ultimate one of them, but there were other ones out there. And there were these various veterans groups that were also functioning. Now, obviously, as time goes on, they get older and older. But that they've had official liaisons. One of these early official liaisons was Rome, Ernst Rome. He was in the Bavaria region, set up to be one of these liaisons with various right-wing militias and veterans groups, and he became involved because of this with the Nazis and the SA and all that, and that's how that started, and he got involved with that. He was an official liaison for the army for a while. Well, once, in 1933, very quickly, all of the veteran organizations were officially put into one organization, because the Nazi state wasn't going to allow any competing organizations exist that weren't National Socialists. And so they were all put into, forgetting it, I'm not even seeing it here, I guess it's the Reich, Krieger, Bund, sorry, trying to pronounce this isn't easy, but were put into that. The one exception were the colonial troops. It was, and it wasn't a political, as in right or left wing or whatever decision, but it was sort of that they themselves were politically powerful. Lettow Vorbeck was a national hero because he, down here in Tanganyika, fought the whole war and didn't surrender until after the war ended. So he was sort of undefeated, if you will, and had marched into Portuguese territory, which Portugal had joined the Allies, and ran a fairly good, not a guerrilla campaign as we think of it today, but a very good unconventional warfare campaign down there. And he was, put as a major hero. That's a picture of him there, riding the horse. So it was officially under the overall veterans organization, but it was the one that remained separate and did its sort of own thing. And it was also fairly small compared to some of the the other, what became the national one, because it was relatively fewer soldiers that served down there, and it just dealt with to my understanding, the colonial guys, not the guys that were like serving in Turkey and this part of the world, but down there. Okay, and so you have your choice. You can support little bit of money, some supplies, or not to. If you want to get favorable relations with your former colonies, you might want to support your former colonial soldiers because they know what's going on. So if you want to pursue the Tanganyika possibilities that mod has, you want to support this. So that's what you do if you want to do it. If you're not planning on going down to Africa, you probably don't even need to install the mod. But if you're not sure if you're going to go down or you don't think so, you cannot do that. Military police research has advanced. So the party conference, yearly major party, the rally for Nazism, National Socialism, rally of honor, I guess, 1936 was. This will give us a total of 4 additional ICs and various propaganda and party support stuff. So yay, we want to do that. Okay, one of the new events from TRE, Brantinu, am I getting that right, Romanian viewers? Romania was, you can see it's rather big there, was on the Allies side in World War I. One of the famous people fighting against Romania in that theater was Erwin Rommel, because he was part of a mountain regiment when they were fighting in the mountains, and he'd been sent down to support the Austrian army, his unit, not him, but his unit. I'm guessing captain at the time? I'm not sure. Obviously a lower ranking officer at the time. Okay, well, basically this is, we have a chance to, should we make the offer that Germany will supply Romania with weapons and will guarantee its borders in exchange, they will strengthen commercial ties with us and not allow the Soviet army to enter their territory. So, if you want to, and this is real meeting, it's a version of George. Arantu came up as I'm not exactly sure his political status, what office he held, but he was a major politician at the time in Romania, came up to do it. And we can, if you want to try to get them in early, and this is what the Nazis did try at the time, you can, or if you plan on just invading them at some point, and you don't want them in the Axis, earlier or later, you want to say, have other plans. So you can make the offer. Now, basically, they declined this time. This is based on history, so you're going to, most likely, shall we say, get the historical outcome. Not that it's always going to be the historical outcome. Someday you might get them in very early on. I tend to make things stay historically plausible and generally go down the historical path, though there is other possibilities. So, and it says they will regret because as we know later, they lose that chunk of territory to Soviet Union, and another big chunk of territory in here to Hungary. So they chose historically not to at this time here, and so we ruin our relations a little bit because of that tiff. Okay, because of the Nazi Party rally, we've got high popularity. We have an education, advanced education advancement. Let's put us way into the red. There, we don't want that. That one. We're still waiting to be able to research that as quickly as possible. Charges. More chances. Is in education advance. Oh, we should be doing that. And then Italy, I'm sure we'll give that. Ludendorff's magazine. Ludendorff, may remember he was his chief of staff to Hindenburg, who the two were responsible for the major offensive last hope of Germany to defeat France before the Americans got in and got really settled. They had some headway. Ultimately, they didn't win. Hindenburg was a right-winger, but not a radical right-winger, a traditionalist, pro-Kaiserist. Obviously, wanting a Kaiser is sort of hardcore right to modern standards, but his viewpoint in his period wasn't overly right-wing. But Ludendorff was a very right-wing sort of guy. He sort of yes, sort of no, and then of course disavowed it once it failed. Was involved with the Nazi coup in Bavaria to try to make Bavaria an independent Nazi state or whatever. He was involved with it, and he was going to at least be the figurehead of the new state. And I think very quickly, as he saw that night as Hitler was failing and the coup was falling apart, he even then was starting to distance himself from it. Well, he also distances himself from the Nazis later on, but, and you can read in here, sort of a more extremist right-winger than publicly than Hitler was, and I mean as in nutty right-wing weirdness. So this is his bi-monthly magazine, and this is also his wife at the time really promoted this as well. Mathilde, whatever, I don't know, his wife there, picture of her there. And so this is his magazine and promoting it, extreme right wing. It was allowed to continue to exist even though it was somewhat critical of the Nazis, but it was sort of critical on the more extreme, so the Nazis allowed it. Tried to make, if anything, make the Nazis seem more reasonable, I guess. Okay, armor plate there. Let's see advanced. There were cases like this, and also, it's also hard. The Nazis even, got a lot more power once Hindenburg died, but they weren't always in a case. And we were just talking about the colonial veterans organization. There were elements that they had hard times suppressing, and right-wing war heroes was one of them. Obviously, they could have shut the magazine down. You don't necessarily have to arrest them to shut the magazine down. Just find some pretext or quietly go in and shut the thing down. But I think it did serve their purpose as well by, like I say, to some degree making the Nazi seem more reasonable. Yes. And because of my mania for having them on the having everything producing ICs right now, we're having them go on the map. I showed it. We go here. And they would come out better if we allowed them to go through the production. They would have better levels of experience and such. But I'm sacrificing that for yes, we want to do more air bases. To keep the ICs going in production. So 5.34 it looks like. Yeah. Okay, the basically the Carpathian Deutsches Partei, the KDP. This at this time is a offshoot of the SDP. The SDP power base was with the Germans, primarily along the border with Czechoslovakia. They did have some German minority, significant German minority living in Prague, and in other parts of Czechoslovakia. I understand, and I may be wrong about this, but I've read that the elites in Prague often still spoke German to sort of separate themselves from the common people, because it had been the sort of governing, ruling, intellectual language of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, so the elites continued speaking it to sort of differentiating themselves from the waiters, if you will. Though I may be wrong about that, because it seems a bit odd, but that's what I've read. And it just may be period propaganda, but this was, and I'm talking about Czechs, not about Germans living in Prague, or ethnic Germans. But this group was, and I don't know if there was ever like a concentrated area of them, but they were out here in Slovakia and maybe what becomes Hungary as well. But they were from the Slovak part, and if you look at a map that has the pockets of ethnicity before or just at the end of World War I, you'll see that there's a bunch of German little pockets around, and that's where these people have their support. And this guy who likes this Hitler mustache, blanking on his Franz Kazarian is in charge of this sort of sub-party of the SDP. And so we could either support them or not. If we support them, we may get some benefits out of that, and we can afford $30 or whatever. 30, it's a dollar symbol to me, but 30 money. So foreign expense, we'll do that. Okay, direct fire. Okay, Hamtap Ordnungspolizei. Basically, this will form the German order police that we started down the road with before, a GTA event. And of course, this is starting in Germany as a I don't know at this stage how paramilitary it is, in the sense of, eventually they're armed with rifles and machine guns and, light equipment like that. Or whether they're just at this stage primarily a... We have an OB for them. Is that it? Yes. Now, unfortunately, it automatically gave Kesselring, which should not be the head of the OPO. Don't know who it was. At this time, since he's the first one we found, now, see if we give it a better go. I've added a bunch of OPO military leaders, and sort of basically at their date of being commanded, appointed to level of command. He was very much involved with them. Basically all the top guys were SS, so you'll see down at the bottom. There's one good reason to put him in charge. That he has the quartermaster trait, so that he'll reduce the supply usage of them. But Delug, I'm not quite sure the correct pronunciation. He may have been in charge of it. He definitely, you'll see a lot of pictures of him in police uniform, as opposed to his SS uniform. And like I say, just about all the general levels, of the general and higher, were SS officers. Not that all of the, police people were SS. Most of them weren't. They were police. But it was an organization ultimately run under the responsibility of the police. Putting all those units on the map. He's revolver held. We've done these well, I think. But it will cost a bit, but they will be helpful in reducing partisan troubles. And Italy finally totally annexes Abyssinia. Okay. Money's royal. No, thank you. No, thank you. Okay, the 4-year plan. The 4-year plan was a major event for Germany. It basically it was set up to go to war. It was an act of aggression. One of the major elements of the 4-year plan was to do as much as they could, because they knew what happened in the First World War, was to make Germany as self-sufficient as possible, so that there were a lot of cases in where certain minerals could be mined in an area, but not very profitably, not unprofitably necessarily, but not very profitably, and it was cheaper to import the same minerals from foreign sources. May or may not be technically overseas. I should have used that term from the British example for it, but everything Britain overseas, or foreign is overseas. But you know, it could be imported from France or other places. So, and they couldn't, and they'd been trying for some time, couldn't interest commercial companies to invest in increasing extraction processes for some of these things, because it just wasn't profitable, because, or, you know, in the sense that, hey, they could sell it on the German market but make so little money it was hardly worth it, and there was foreign stuff in cheaper. But Hitler and the top groups knew that they were planning a war at some point and that they couldn't get it, so they did a bunch of different things and set this 4-year plan up to organize it. Now, as you see as I come over and highlight this, this is going to, Germany has been nerfed by one of the gets 4-year plan and removal, and the TRE start as representing, and I did that to represent, instead of using, you know, something that artificially bumps up consumer goods, I just removed some stuff out there. So you start till October 36, those factories were making commercial, you know, goods, radios, whatever, toasters, whatever it might be, for sale, as opposed to, and primarily for domestic use, as opposed to arms. So we get that removed, and then you also get the TRE 4-year plan benefits added onto it. So there's which you can see there, 10% ICs, efficiency, IC efficiency up by 10%, and resources up by 20%, and that's because they're extracting so many more resources. Get a couple of factories that are based there sort of randomly, as well as some down lower you'll see that are specifically in specific provinces that's historically based. But you get you lose Schneck, and you get Göring as armaments minister. So there's good and there's bad with it. But trust me, compared to leaving Schneck in power, and who was of the top German leaders, he was the person that understood economies, I think, the best. Not saying the best in the world at the time or anything else. There's much better economists out there. But of the conservative, right-wing, National Socialist, various political conservative type stripes that could function within National Socialist Germany, they weren't all National Socialists. They were in politics, and they're right to, you know, give this guy, he's basically, they consider him a fascist, and, you know, paternal autocrat. So, you know, meaning that of the right, he was probably the guy that understood that. And he held, I mean, I call him here the president of the Reich Bank, which he continues on, but he loses, he continues on being for quite some time there. I'm not even sure when it ended. But he loses basically economics minister, if you will, and so he loses some of his job. And Göring is, so this appoints him in charge of this. So his heavy-fisted way comes in, but really directs it. Yeah, there's a lot of supplies, and you lose the manpower, which I consider going to, you know, factory workers to mine, you know, to expand the mines and all that. But you also lose, you know, supplies and metal and all that. And that's to go to build the factories that you're getting out of it. So it's not cost-free, but it's based on history, as I understand it. You can read up more details about that if you like. And so now you have Göring here, which partially because of plowing money into things, plus into the new factories, and because there are going to be subsequent events related to this. And he also has, which he, I tailored the titles, head of the Luftwaffe here. Well, here he's functioning as Reichswerk Hermann Göring, which was an organization he did not own. He controlled, he was the guy in charge of it, but it wasn't private ownership, though he very well might have been, and I think there's good evidence of it, siphoning off a certain amount of money for private use out of it, but he was in charge of it. But that's money which you can't use to buy stuff foreign, or he's already sort of buying resources and other stuff to expand the German economy from foreign. You lose land organization because he's a Luftwaffe opponent guy, and so meaning he's more powerful than some of these other guys. And that's sort of inside German political setup, and obviously it reinforces some of his other stuff. And you notice he already has this here because this is sort of represents previous and continuing, because even if you remove him at some point, you'll lose. Well, by 1940 you'll lose, either go to war or 1940 happens, or if you remove him even briefly as armament minister, you'll lose the four-year plan benefits that we just talked about. But you'll still keep this because Reichswehr Göring doesn't disappear, it continues on, but it's no longer the big dominant organization. That's why you get an extra 5% here, because these are added together. And so he's very, very influential at this time period in both these realms. So, but once you no longer have the four-year plan going, remove Göring as armaments minister, and normally it's Todt that is the best guy available at that time. But while he's there, you'll get the negatives and the positives. But it just sort of represents a different emphasis, if you will, as who's in charge. So, okay, I think that's a good place to end this episode. Good sort of big shift in Germany. We'll be seeing a major change in the amount of ICs available because of that, and resources and everything. So have a good day. We'll be continuing this with a new episode. Thank you very much.